Okay, Kasherut. Okay, Zlat Hashem. We're gonna hopefully finish up this topic of basar shenita lemina ayin, meat and foods that were unsupervised. Let's say it like that. Okay. We mentioned before about how a person has to be careful and put a double seal when they're sending packages with non-Jews, packages with food of non-Jews. Now, this is also technically true for Jews that are known not to keep kosher. If there's a Jew that is like known and he's, you know, it's established that he doesn't keep kosher, so in that case you would need to act towards him the same way as you would act to the non-Jew, and you would need to send it with a double seal. Okay. Another point would be is there's no difference if it's a rich person or not a rich person, which means if the non-Jew is a rich non-Jew or not rich, like he's poor, it makes no difference. We don't say that just because, oh, he's rich, he's not going to do something like that. So, if he's rich, we're okay. We don't need to send it we don't need to do a double seal. And the simple reason for this, and this is something that comes up often enough in other halachot as well, is that sorry, is that we can't start making differentiations um, for something that's not really able to be quantified. Meaning, at what point are you going to say he's rich, and at what point are you going to say he's poor? Since that's not something that can be definitively defined, we can't make that difference. Meaning, Chachamim, when they made their decrees, they they took into account all sorts of possibilities, and they also understood that many times, if there's something that is kind of like in a gray area, it's better to be strict in a way to avoid this possibility. Okay, as opposed to starting to make the exceptions and towing towing the line with many things. And this is something that unfortunately comes up very often, is that when you allow certain things because you say, okay, what's the problem with whatever it is, and what's the problem with this particular thing, like there's no problem. What ends up happening is it ends up the line ends up getting pushed back further, further and further. um an example that I heard not too long ago was, something was supposed to be done uh in like a hall. Normally, you shouldn't be preparing even through a non-Jew. Even through a non-Jew, you should not be preparing from Shabbat to the weekday. Okay, so they had an event, Motzei Shabbat, and the delivery guys came to deliver this stuff on Shabbat. Now, there's no problem with them delivering it on Shabbat. There's no problem with them maybe even taking it off the truck on Shabbat, but there is a problem with them setting it up on Shabbat. Okay, so the guy, he asked, like, okay, can we just move the chairs from outside to inside? Okay, and what ended up happening was the chairs, not only did they come from outside to inside, they somehow ended up around the table, and somehow all the speakers and all the plugs and everything else got plugged in from just that small permission, kind of can we move the chairs from here to here. It somehow ended up with all the electricity being turned on, all the tables being set up properly. So, we can't, Chachamim, they can't make all these sorts of differences. If it's like this, it's going to be okay. If it's like that, then it's not okay. Something is not allowed, it's not allowed, and that's all. Okay. Another thing that we have to be careful of when we send these type of packages, is this one only needs technically one seal. It doesn't need two seals. Would be wine. okay, would be wine. When we send wine, you have to be careful of at least that it should be sealed. Okay, it should be closed. If it's mivushan, or sorry, if it's not mivushan, it's a problem regardless of a non-Jew touching it. And if it's mivushan, like we said, it's enough for one seal. There's a halacha which I'm going to bring in now, which is also important enough, which some people might not know, is when it comes to wine. Many times, even if it's a Jew touching the wine, if a Jew touches wine that is not mivusha, that is not cooked previously, and this Jew isn't shomer Shabbat, so then they can ruin the wine, meaning they can now make it that this wine has to be thrown out. So it's important that when you're sitting at a table, you're sitting Shabbat, Chag, whenever it is, and you're serving wine, and you know that there are people that aren't Shomer Shabbat, or even it doesn't have to be at the table, where if you have in your own home, you have wine that's not mivushan, and it's open, you have to be careful that the cleaning lady or someone else, non-Jewish, or even if they're Jewish and like we said, not Shomer Shabbat, they shouldn't be touching this wine, they shouldn't be pouring this wine. There are some exceptions to the rules, but again, those would have to be dealt with by a rabbi. But in general, if a non-Jew touches not mivushal wine, or even a Jew that isn't shomer Shabbat touches not mivushal wine, you would technically have to uh, throw out the bottle. Like I said, if there's other circumstances, there might be what to talk about. You can ask a rabbi, but otherwise, it technically should be thrown out.
May I ask you a
Yeah.
question? We had a case once in my house, and a Rav was there that day, and the person had just like turned the bottle like that to see the label, and he said it's okay because he didn't shake it. Is it? Do you go with that or not?
Again, when it gets to the exceptions, when it gets to the exceptions of the rule, I wouldn't want to say
Do
it
it.
like in a public forum for everything, because
But
they
if
get
he
very.
just touches the bottle, if he doesn't move it or shake it, it's okay. It's not okay. I mean,
Again, when it gets to those exceptions, I'd rather not discuss them publicly. These are things that are more each case individual, because when we say these things publicly, then some things can be misunderstood or it's complicated. It's important if we're already.
said publicly because I didn't understand well. So even if he just touches, that's what you say. If a
Again, if the bottle was touched and nothing happened there, meaning the bottle wasn't moved,
that
then
okay.
it's okay. Once
Okay.
it gets moved, that's when the questions start. It's
Okay.
important to know that this time I happen to know the minhag of the Chabad, but the Chabad hold that if the wine is not mivushan and a non-Jew even looks at the wine, at that point the wine is not kosher anymore. So if you're at a Chabad house and you sometimes see that they wrap the bottle up in like tin foil, or they cover it with another bag or something like that, you understand it's because for the Chabad, if a non-Jew even looks at non-mivushar wine that is opened, for them it basically makes the wine not kosher at that point.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Zimcha. Now, when it's so it's not only wine the problem. Wine, like we said, there's the problem of mivushan, not mivushan. Um, but even if it's mivushan, if you're sending it alone as is, you would have to put it in a seal. If it's open, of course. Okay, if it's closed, then there's nothing what to talk about. The same thing would apply technically for beer, right? Beer is if it's opened, if it's open for whatever reason, I don't know, you're sending a package to someone and you're sending an open bottle of beer. Um, since there's a possibility of they might mix it in, you need one seal. However, nowadays we don't really, that doesn't really apply to us, because no one's going to be mixing in the not kosher one. Milk is the same, would be the same problem, right? You can mix it with not kosher milks, but still you would only need one seal for something like that. Again, if it's open, in general, we shouldn't be really like sending open packages, like stuff that are open, even in delivery services and stuff like that. Always should be closed. Um, and same thing applies for cheese as well. For all of these things, if the package is sealed, right? If it's closed, like for example, you're buying a delivery, right? You're using Instacart or something like that, and they bring you kosher cheese. That's obviously fine, even though there's like, okay, there's no seal on it. But since the package is closed, you see exactly what's going on. There's no problem with this type of things. But when you're getting to different, when you're getting to like, for example, you're sending with an Uber, you're sending some of your own personal things that you have at home, then you would have to be careful not to send open packages, and you would need to put at least one seal, which basically means you put scotch tape and or something like this to close it up. Now, if when you're sending the package, the seal gets ruined. Okay. Now there's two ways for the seal to get ruined. There's a way for the seal to get ruined by you send something hot, and now like the seal, because of the moisture, or because of the heat, it basically is not sticky anymore. um that would be one option. The second option would be if you see that it was tampered with a little bit, meaning you see that it, like one of the edges was lifted a little bit, as if like someone was trying to peel it off. When If you see that, if it happened on its own, okay, um if the non-Jew doesn't know the halacha, then it would be okay. Meaning, if he knows this halacha of that you need to send a sealed package, and now the seal became undone on its own, then it would be a problem, because we're going to say, okay, now he for sure he for sure like tried his luck. As opposed to if he doesn't know the halacha and the seal just came out on its own, okay, so it's not a problem, it came on its own. If the seal was tampered with, right, then we obviously know that it's a problem, and you would not be able to use it again. If the person if the person sending the package gives you like clear signs of what's being sent without actually sealing it. So, for example, they have an open bag of, we're talking about cheese. So, yeah, they have an open bag of cheese, and they tell you, okay, listen, it's in this package. I'm putting it in a shopping bag of Walmart, of the Grove, or whatever store. I'm putting it in this bag, and I'm telling you the exact weight of the package. The exact weight is 30 ounces, okay, whatever it is. So as long as everything stays the same, then you're okay with it, because that would be technically your two seals, because you have exact way to measure it. But if you have all of a sudden one of those, like something that is off, like for example, they said we send it to you in a Walmart bag, or we send it to you in a Grove bag, and now it came in a Walmart bag, that's when you would have to actually like double check with the person. Like, did you really send it in a Walmart bag, or did you send it in the grow bag and it was switched along the way? If it was switched, obviously you know that there's a problem now, and um, you would have to be more careful. Another thing, when another halakha when it comes to these things, is like we said, normally you need the double seal. So now, if you were to take one seal in multiple places, right? So you take multiple places and you put one seal, it's technically a machloket if it's a lot or not. But at the end of the day, you can be lenient for something like this. So when you're sending like a tray of food or something, you're sending a tray of food, and there's meat inside, or like fish, like we were saying, normally you need a double seal. So you make sure to seal it, you make sure to close it in a few places, and that's how you're going to know that there's the double seal. And then you check to see if when you get it, you check to see if there was anything done to it. But again, most of the time, Baruch Hashem, nothing is really um, is it's not really relevant in nowadays. Another thing that a person has to be very careful of, especially it's, I guess it's more common in Israel, but it happens all over the place, are forgeries. What do I mean by that? In Israel, not once or twice, it has been found many, many times, unfortunately, where the Arabs, they bring in their not kosher meat in kosher packaging. Okay, so they forge the packaging of of a certain ashgacha, whatever it is, and then they bring it in on their own. They bring it in from their settlements, and they sell it to people. They sell them the meat. They sell them, you know, they even bring it to the suppliers sometimes like that. Now, if this is known to be a problem, a person has to be very careful. A person has to be, uh, you know, aware of something like this can happen, and to not just take everything for face value and say, oh, okay, if it has the ashgacha, yeah, it's for sure okay, right? If it has the seal, it's for sure okay. You would have to make sure, where is this coming from? How is it coming? Is this the regular delivery that is coming? And many things of the sort. Um, I'll tell you some a case that actually happened to me. Now, obviously, like, it wasn't really, uh, you know, there was no problem with it, but just to show you an example of somehow when certain things could possibly go wrong. So, someone called me and told me that they bought meat in the Grove, and in the packaging of the Grove, it said, the price of the meat, and it said made in Pakistan. Okay. Now it's meat. So this lady called me and she's like, wait a second, you know, it says made in Pakistan. Like, there's kosher meat coming from Pakistan. That's like not really possible. Like, how is that? How is that possible? So whatever, we ended up going through the mashgiach, obviously, and the mashgiach said, "Yeah, you're right. It was a mistake." Meaning, obviously, the meat is not coming from Pakistan. There's ashgacha, Baruch Hashem. There's the mashgiach over there. It's supervised. That's not a problem. But it just comes to show you that sometimes how much we have to be aware of certain things. Like, we think like everything is okay, and then we don't pay attention. This is more. This is a lot more true when you go buy in places where it's possible that things can get mixed up. Okay, kosher, not kosher. So then you would have to be really careful of something like that. Open packages that don't have a proper seal. Okay, Bezat Hashem. So we'll stop here for today.
Thank you so much, Rabbi.
B'simcha, Bezat Hashem. Bye bye.
Shabbat Shalom.